Cloud. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 4 of Brunswick and Beyond. Super stoked to be here today, and we got a pretty good group of panelists. I'm super excited for them to share their experiences. I'm your host, your moderator, Shakir Robinson. Some may know me as Shaq Rob. But I'll go ahead and start off with the goal of Brunswick and Beyond. And we'll start off first with the vision. And my vision that I have with Brunswick and Beyond is onefold. I believe growing up in Brunswick and the greater picture of South Georgia, that we have the growth that we receive, right, from our parents, our teachers, our coaches, our pastors, our community leaders, that really prepares us to be successful in our local community back in Brunswick and South Georgia, but also beyond that, right? Like I said in the previous weeks, had a chance to visit 28 countries throughout the world, but there's one common thread that has allowed me to be able to operate in those spaces, and that's being from South Georgia and the things that I've learned and the people that really poured into my life. And so with Brunswick and Beyond, we got 2 goals. That first goal being, over the past 4 weeks, right, up until this week, we've had 17 panelists, including the 4 that are dialed in today. And I really want that first goal to be, I want all the students to be able to see themselves in one of the panelists, right? So we got females, we got males, we got, different ethnicities, right? We got high income, low income, middle income, right? And so there's a myriad of people that we have on this panelist group. So I bet my bottom dollar that there's a student out there, whatever school you go to, Brunswick High, Glenn Academy, Jeff Davis, wherever you're at, that you guys can see yourself in one of these panelists. So that's goal number 1. And then goal number 2 is, like we were talking about before we started the live cast with Carmen, was that I want you guys to see what's possible out there, right? Today we got, a representative from accounting. We got someone that's in a radiation technician. We got someone that's a teacher, right? And we have another guy that may dial in that he spent some time over in Germany working. But all these people we got come from the same background. And so that's what I want you guys to see. Those are my 2 goals. 1, to relate with one of the panelists. And goal number 2 is to see what's possible and what's out there. And so that's what we got, the vision and the goals of Brunswick and Beyond. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce the panelists for today. We're going to do self-introductions, right? Because you guys can explain who you are better than I can. So we're going to go first. And let me go ahead and start off with the anomaly that we have, right? The show is called Brunswick and Beyond. But, I like the bigger scope of South Georgia. We got a participant, right, from Hazelhurst, pardon me, Hazelhurst, Georgia, right? So if you can, please, the panelists, if you can, say your name, what high school you went to, and then what year you graduated. And Tracy, we have you up first.
All right, my name is Tracy Stewart. I'm from Hazelhurst, Georgia. That's Jeff Davis High School. I graduated in 2013. And what was the other?
That's it. That's perfect. You did.
Okay, I got it.
Name, high school. Hey, you're batting 100. You're batting 300 already. Here we go. Okay, Carmen, since I got a relationship with you, right? We went to Needwood and Brunswick High together. If you can, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi. Thank you for having me this afternoon. It's an honor. I appreciate you for asking me to be on. My name is Carmen Green. I graduated from Brunswick High in 2011, and I'm currently working as a radiation therapist.
Word up. I love it. Carmen, we're super stoked to have you on tonight. And then coming in, also, we have Miss Victoria. If you can, please state your name, what high school you went to, and what year you graduated.
Hi, my name is Victoria Ramirez. I went to Brunswick High School and I graduated in 2015.
Word up. So there we have it, folks. That's our cast for the night. Some strong women that I'm super stoked to be a part and be the moderator for. So I know each one of you guys, right? I kind of have a personal relationship to some form or fashion to each one of the panelists, but I want to open that up to some of the students that are dialed in tonight. And so the first question is, right, I want you guys to describe yourselves. How were you in high school? How would you classify yourself? What were your interests? What kind of groups were you in? That's what we kind of want to get at, right? And so we'll go ahead and start off with, who should we start off with? Tracy, we start off with you first. So Carmen, you just look so much ready. So Carmen, what type of woman were you when your 17-year-old self walking the halls of Brunswick High School?
I was the one that I guess always did my work. You could actually count on me if you needed any homework or any notes. I was voted most dependable, actually. So I was in a lot of clubs. I think 12th grade, Beta Club, National Honor Society. I've done a couple different things in school. So I was pretty active, but definitely the one that got the work done, probably the nerd out of my group. So
All right, look at you today. I think it's definitely paying dividends. So we can talk about that a little bit later. But Victoria, how would you describe yourself? Your 16-year-old self walking the halls of Brunswick High School.
I think I was very shy. I think I was in the corner, didn't really talk too much during class, but when I was around my friends, I did have conversations. Much like Carmen, I was involved in a lot of groups, which I think helped me build relationships with people. I was in cheerleading all my high school life, and that really helped me step out of my comfort zone, so to say. So as I progressed from freshman year to senior year, I just saw my confidence grow with the different clubs that I was involved in and the people that I surrounded myself with that pushed me to where I needed to be. But I definitely would say that I was kind of studious and very quiet, is what I remember myself being.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Started off a little bit quiet, but then, joined a little extracurricular activities, and that brought you out your shell just a little bit. So pretty cool to hear. And then Tracy, going up the street, right? 341, that school up there, how would you describe yourself back then?
Back in high school, I would consider myself to be like the biggest nerd ever. Like, I don't think I went to break. Instead of going to break, I would hang out in the chemistry room with all my other friends, like doing homework or something like that. And I was also involved in band. I was involved in band like all the way from middle school up until my junior year of high school. And then I kind of quit with the extracurricular activities because I had to start working. I didn't really, I didn't grow up poor, but I had to work if I wanted to have fun or save up for college. So about my junior year of high school, it really just started to focus on work and school, and I just hit the books mainly. I was a big nerd, a big nerd and a hard worker.
I like that. So let's drop anchor right there, right? You mentioned college, right? So you grew up in a small town. I looked up on Google, Hazelhurst, at least of the recent census, had about 5,000 people. And so please share with us, like, how'd you, after high school, right? I guess you knew that you wanted to go to college. How'd you make that transition to figure out where you wanted to go to college and leaving your town of Hazelhurst?
So growing up in a small town, obviously college is far away from, the nearest university I think was an hour and 40 minutes away from my house. So at the time, I really thought college was impossible. My parents couldn't afford for me to go to college. So here I was thinking, how am I ever going to afford to go to college? I'm here in this small town. I'll never make it. So you know what I did? I drove an hour and 40 minutes to the university and back for God knows how long. I would try to schedule it out where I had classes on Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday, Thursday classes. That way I only had to go 2 days a week, but some semesters I would have to go Monday through Friday and drive back and forth to Valdosta State University is where I first started going. And it was just a grind. Like I would wait tables in between then at a little pizza shop in my hometown, and I don't know how I did it, but I did it. I made a way for myself.
No, I love to hear. That seems like that blue collar, like that's in the blood down there in South Georgia. So I love to hear. We're gonna get a little bit more in detail about what you do and why you do it. And Jack, if you can, go ahead and put your video on. I'll introduce you in just a second. But Victoria, please share with us, right? You graduated from Brunswick High School, and I think you too went to Georgia Southern. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, share with us, like, what'd you study there? Why did you choose what you study? And then, like, how was your college experience overall?
Okay, so after I graduated high school, I honestly did not know what I wanted to do. There's a realm of things for you to choose from, and I think that can be a little bit overwhelming. But luckily in high school, they have pathways, so you were able to choose and like experience different things. So originally I wanted to be a pediatrician. So at GICA, I took the like intro to medical classes. And kid you not, this is where I knew I did not want to be it. We were learning the root words of medical terms. And I said, this is for me, not for me. So then I heard of the education classes that Miss Griner was in charge of. And so I just took a dive and tried that out. And so when I graduated high school and I wanted to go to college, I went ahead and just chose that as my major since it was the last thing that I did. And so during college, the first 2 years, you take like your core classes and a little bit of introduction to what your major would look like. And my first experience, we had to pick like what age group we wanted to deal with. So I visited a kinder through like third grade realm first, and I just could not do it. Praise those teachers because I can't. And then I went to an upper 4th and 5th grade class, and I kind of started to fill it out. And it was something that I enjoyed, but it just wasn't like, it's just something that I knew I wouldn't stick with. And the last one was a 6th grade social studies class, and I fell in love. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I remember my senior year when it was time to, get things done and get graduated and take tests. I barely slept. It was maybe an hour staying up, doing work on top of working. And it was stressful, but I think it's so worth it. And I appreciate that Georgia Southern's kind of like a rigorous curriculum for their education department, because we started off with about 50 candidates for middle grades education, and I ended with 18.
Ooh.
Yes. And that was with people just realizing that this wasn't for them because of the activities that they asked you to do and the dedication. And so they do a really good job at weeding people out and people realizing that, maybe it's not for them early on in the program. Like they let you know straight ahead and you'll know if you want it or not. So it definitely thinned out, but the people who were there, we all supported each other. And I think that's nice that they were able to create that environment. I mean, the professors there were amazing. And worked with us to their best ability. So I'm thankful that was the college I chose, because originally I was going to go to West Georgia, but they really do have a good education program. I'm not saying that West Georgia doesn't, but I haven't seen it. But they set the foundation and work ethic that I have now as a teacher.
So you guys have seen that already as like a theme, right? Between the first two panelists, Tracy and Victoria, right? Tracy just shared, right? She's like driving an hour and 40 minutes to go to college, waiting tables at the local pizzeria, kind of scratching all her nails and claws just to make a way to go to college, right? And you got Victoria staying up long nights, going to all these schools, trying to figure out what will be the right environment for her. So like the early on theme, right, is that it's not going to be easy, right after Brunswick High or whatever high school you're in. But Carmen, we're going to get to you. One sec. Jack, man, we got you dialed in. It's good to have you. If you can, man, share your name, bro, what high school you went to and what year you graduated. Well, first, bro, you got to unmute yourself, man.
Can you hear me now?
We got you. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, so I graduated 2011, same with Shaq from BHS. I ended up going to North Georgia as a cadet. I went and did their military program up there. I stayed with it for the 4 years. I ended up not going into the military, but I went and learned a bunch of stuff. Probably not as much as Shaq learned, considering he went to West Point, but learned some cool stuff. After that, I went over to Germany, learned German, got to do a lot of sightseeing.
Wait. Pause for a second. Yeah. What did you study at North Georgia, man?
I studied business management.
Business management. Okay, you got a 4-year degree in business management, right?
Yeah.
And then what was that process like? You just said you went off to Germany. Like, what were you doing at Germany? How did that opportunity come up?
I actually just got recruited. They were looking for Americans to go and start up the facility here in the States. It's like a auto part manufacturing company. They make parts for Bosch, Porsche, BMW, Volkswagen, a lot of German companies, Continental. but they made like the smaller parts, like the sensors, the pistons, the stuff like that. And what was your question?
So wait, as you're telling me you went to Brunswick, right? Then North Georgia, and it took you out to Germany. And you just told me like you learned German, man. Is that true? Like how that happened, man?
Yeah. Well, at my as you know, like I already spoke 3 languages before I went over there, and then I went to Germany. It's just kind of easy to learn another language once you know. Like once you know 3, you get to kind of understand how languages work and just kind of where to put stuff together. Now, of course, I don't know the dirty da stuff. I don't think anybody's gonna know dirty da stuff because there's like 16 different ways to say the in German, and I don't know, in Spanish and Portuguese. Like there's 1 in Portuguese and there's 2 in Spanish.
If I was correct, right? One of your parents has Portuguese descent, right? And then also you learned a little Spanish growing up too.
Both of my parents are Portuguese descent. And so, of course, I learned Portuguese from them. And then I didn't really learn English until I went to school here in the States. And then I learned Spanish just in high school. And then after learning the Spanish in high school in the summers, what I would do is, because my parents, they weren't going to go give me any BS money or anything like that to go and spend at school because I went to school and study. So what I did is I went and worked in like landscaping in the summers. And naturally, a lot of people who work in landscaping are Hispanic. And so instead of saying, oh, I'm going to only speak in English, you guys, this is America, you're only going to speak my language, like how a lot of narrow-minded people think, I went and actually tried to learn Spanish and practice it with them. So that just ended up bettering my Spanish. And I was actually even able to go and CLEP the Spanish classes in college.
Pause, man. This is what I want everybody to hear, right? The title of this series, right, is called Brunswick and Beyond. Here we go. We got a guy from South Georgia, right? This years at Brunswick High, went to North Georgia, worked the summers, right? Picked up Spanish. And then that same kind of bloodline took him over to Europe, right? About a 9-hour flight or so, maybe a little bit less. And he learned German.
A little bit more.
Oh, a little bit more. Okay. So Jack, man, we're gonna come back to you because I'm super interested in your story. But Carmen, right? You got voted most dependable, right? A senior superlative. So you too graduated from Brunswick High. Shout out to the Pirates 211. And then where'd that take you after high school? Like, how'd you decide on a college that you want to go to?
So actually I was, like I said, my brother and I were the first to like go off to university. So
in your family, the first to go in your family.
My brother and I, yes. So
okay.
Originally I started out at Coastal. I ended up doing 2 years. I did all of my core classes. And then from there, I kind of just talked to my counselor. I started out in the radiologic sciences, but originally I thought I wanted to do physical therapy. And when I went to orientation, they explained to me how long school would be. And at the time, 7 to 8 years just sounded way too long. So my uncle, we did some research and I ended up coming across radiation therapy. So I always knew I wanted to help people, and specifically in my community. So that's what led me to the healthcare field. So I ended up finding radiation. So I did all of my core classes at Coastal. And again, like everyone else, I did work when I was home. I would take classes in the morning, Monday through Friday. And then in the afternoons, I worked with the Boys and Girls Club for 4 years. So I did that. And then I ended up going off to Armstrong State University, which is now Georgia Southern.
So like, let's pause. You said you did the first years at Coastal, right? For 2 years to get some of those core classes out the way. For those students at Brunswick High or Glenn Academy or Jeff Davis, right? I started my career at college at Coastal Georgia as well. Would that be a recommendation for students to kind of dip their toes into college first before going off to Georgia Southern like Victoria or Tracy or up to North Georgia like Jack?
Definitely, because you don't want to make a big financial commitment if you're not sure about what you want to do. And I hear that so often, like even my husband and I still talk about that to this day. So you definitely want to like make sure like, okay, this is what I want to do, have a plan, set some goals, and just be disciplined and dedicated, and definitely surround yourself with people who are like on the path to where you're going, and to surround yourself with people who are already there. So that's going to keep you going and keep you focused and stand on the right track to, actually finishing. Starting is one thing, but like finishing is like the ultimate goal. So
hey, you're preaching right now. You're preaching. But hey, I need you to go in a little bit more detail. I'm about to share my screen. I want you to talk a little about what is like this radiation therapy that you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Because I'll be
Yeah.
honest, when I was 17 years old at Brunswick High, I had no clue what radiation therapy was. So please share us a little bit what radiation therapy is.
Yeah, so basically, I'm a radiation therapist. I treat cancer patients on the daily. So this first photo that Shaq has up, or yeah,
Yep.
that first one right there is the therapist. She's like maneuvering his head. So from right here in this angle, she's treating something in the chest area. And so
Okay.
normally we're treating like the S-clav, superclav area. We have to turn away from the beam of the radiation. So that is the gantry. That right there is where the radiation comes out of. And so that's pretty much what's going on there.
And
So
that guy has cancer, right? The guy has
yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
Okay.
And so that machine can rotate around in a 360-degree circle.
Okay.
And I have like a better picture. I'll show you on the next slide. So this right here is what we call an immobilization device. So every patient has to lay the same exactly every day. We want to make sure we're targeting that tumor or tumor bed in the exact same spot every day. So right here is what we have, what we call an AccuFix. So that just pretty much just contains the entire body. We want it to be in the same spot. So pretty much she's like in a vacuum and sucking the air out. And so with that particular picture before, it's just we're targeting one area and the doctor wants to make sure that that person is in the same spot every single day. So that's what that is right there.
We're gonna come back to those pictures because I think I got an idea about what radiation therapy is. You did a great job. So Victoria, right? You're a teacher. So you did your 4-year degree at Georgia Southern, right? And
Yes.
then how did that go? You got a job right after? And how was that job search like? What is it like? What's the reality? You graduate with a degree and do they just give you a job right after and you start working, or how does that work?
So
And Tracy, you're shaking your head, so we'll talk to you next. You get the answer next.
it is very stressful, I'm not gonna lie. Thankfully, my program mandated us to go through trials of interviews. And so we had to prepare our resumes, look at interview questions, answer them, and then we had to sit in front of 2 people who initially would be like a principal or an instructional who would interview you, and they would grade you. And we did this about, I want to say maybe 3 times throughout the year. So our senior year is when it happened, when we designed our resumes and got to the process of it. Between the end of January and March is prime time for searching for a job for teaching, because at that point in people's career fields for education, they're either not signing their letter of intent, so that becomes a position available for people to look for, or contracts aren't being signed, which just means, again, that position is available. So that's usually when, if anybody is ever interested in education, you'd look for a job. But the reality of it is I knew I wanted to teach math. And so I searched for jobs, and they only had a social studies job, I think, at Jane Macon. And my pride for pirates was too deep, so I never looked at Glen Middle. And I was okay with teaching social studies, but it just wasn't something that I knew that I wanted to do. So I just waited for a week. Then nothing popped up, and I waited for another week. And at this point, my peers are getting job interviews. And so I was one of the last to interview with a potential school, because I knew I wanted to come back to Brunswick just to start my career. And I wanted a math position. So I was just banking on the fact that one would become available, and one did. There was a math position at Needwood that was available. And so I applied. I brought in my resume that was in a clear pocket folder, crisp, clean pictures, everything. I brought 8 copies just in case. And I walked in, sat in the conference room, and it was the principal at the time. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And he was like, well, we'll just wait a second. There's a few that are coming. And in my head, I was like, a few? Does that mean like 2? Does it mean 3? Like, what am I working with? And there were about 7 people in that interview that I was not prepared for at all. two is something I could work with, but 7, I was definitely shaking in my body. Like I tried not to show it. And so when I left the interview, they were very sweet, very, trying to fill out if I was good for the job. And I remember after the interview, I went into my car, I called my mom and I cried. And I said, if I don't get this job, I am putting this on hold. I'm not job searching because that was stressful.
Yep.
And so I waited for a couple of weeks. I didn't apply to go for another job interview. And then I got the call and said that they wanted me to, take the job. And I was like, oh, thank you, God, because I
Yep.
was not going to do it. I was going to take a year break. I was going to go work at Bath and Body Works and then just figure my life out at that point.
Yep,
But,
yep, yep.
things align and I got the job, but it was definitely stressful. It's not something that comes easy.
Hey, but you stuck through and you got the job, so congratulations. It's pretty cool you get to start off back, back in Brunswick. But Tracy, you're shaking your head, right? And then for those that just dialing in, right, Tracy's an accountant. So coming from a small town, like, one, what does an accountant do? And then two, like, why'd you want to go the accountant route, right? Because that can be a little bit challenging for some people like me.
Okay. An accountant can do a multitude of things. You can do things like bookkeeping, which you keep company records of people's daily transactions. You classify revenues and expenses. You do payroll taxes, sales tax. That's kind of like the bookkeeping side of things. Or you can do taxes. You can do audit.
Okay.
You can also go in the private sector, and be an internal accountant for, a business or whatever you decide to do. But of course, small town, I didn't even know what accounting was when I was in high school.
Yep. How'd you find
So
out about it?
I stumbled on accounting on accident. I was originally going to be a math teacher, and then
Yep.
I started student teaching at a middle school in Brunswick. I
Okay.
forgot the name of it, but it was a middle school in Brunswick. And once I started student teaching, I was like, I hate it. Teaching was not for me. But I knew I liked numbers.
Yep.
So we had to take electives in college, and I was probably a sophomore in college when I switched my major, but I took an accounting class as an elective and I loved it. I mean, it just clicked with me. It made sense. I didn't even know what accounting was because I didn't take any business classes in high school. Um, but I loved it. I excelled at it. And so when I was a sophomore, I switched my major to accounting. Um, and then I pursued accounting from there, and you know, but going off about what Victoria was saying about her job search, in accounting, it's hard to find a job. I mean, well, at least it was hard for me because I couldn't go on internships like everybody else could, like, because they have like job recruiters come in and ask people to do an internship. Well, I couldn't because I had to work either half time or full time to support myself through college. Um, I took online classes and I worked at a bank, and I worked for the bank as long as I could, taking online classes. Then I had to quit working at the bank, and my husband had to support me until I
Yep.
graduated. But just having that banking experience, it kind of helped out a little bit, but not really. But finding a job was so hard because I lived in a small town. Like, I live in small town Georgia. Like, you have all these mom and pop accounting firms around and they're all fully staffed. I'm like, where am I going to go? So
Yep.
I literally got my resume, went
Mhm.
to every little small accounting firm around here, and I asked to speak to the CPA who owned the firm, and I handed them my resume in person. I said, hey, I want a job, gave him the spiel, and I got rejected, I think 5 times.
So
And
rejection is
then,
inevitable, right?
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you gotta be able to accept rejection and keep moving forward because it's gonna
Okay.
happen. People are gonna
Right.
say no. So, anyways, I got rejected, and it was the day that I graduated. My graduation ceremony. Dennis Stanfield, the only accountant in my hometown, called me up and said that his bookkeeper was quitting. And I just graduated with my bachelor's degree. I didn't want to be a bookkeeper. I want to do taxes, but I knew I had to start from somewhere. And so I said, yes,
Mhm.
I will do the job. So I became his bookkeeper, slash staff accountant. And I worked
Mhm.
through that. I worked full time while I got my master's degree online. I got my master's degree online and worked full time
So
as a
let me just add
bookkeeper.
that in, right? I got my master's degree while working full time.
Full
Okay, we
time.
got it. Okay.
And then after I got my master's degree, I knew that I had to level up from where I was at, a bookkeeper type thing. And so I always knew about Hancock, Askew, and Savannah, but I was so scared to apply because I didn't have any experience because they were a bigger firm, you know. And I applied, and the interviews just soared through, and I got 2 job offers, not only from Hancock, but from another firm too. And then I had 2 firms fighting over me, and I was like, wow, what a time to be alive. Like, little me would have never thought this would have happened, you know, but it happens. You just have to roll with the punches. You just got to keep going. Don't give up. You know,
I like that. I like that
rejection will
story
happen. Yeah.
of perseverance. And that, you know, that grind and that struggle, right, is definitely there. But I just got to look at Jack, man, in his photo. He looks so relaxed, kind of chill, man. So what is that you do on a day-to-day basis, man? Are you working from home? Kind of like you don't live in Germany anymore. What's your day-to-day life like, man? Share with the people what you do.
Like day to day, I'm working in consulting. Like I work for one of the big 4 consulting companies now.
So
like
wait. What is, I didn't know I didn't have a clue what consulting was, man. What is consulting for these students that don't know?
It's pretty much like this way to go and describe it. It's like a company owns you and they're essentially loaning you out to other companies for you to go and help them out with projects and stuff like that.
Okay.
You can do it with accounting, for example, to go with Tracy's thing. You can do it with for risk analysis. They have it for me. I do work in the cloud, so I do it for Azure, which I only really started doing a couple months ago, as you know. But
And are you working from home right now, or are you working from the office, or what?
Oh, I work from home. I love it. Like
wow.
Let me tell you, that 5-minute commute
man?
is like that 5-minute. Like I only put on a shirt now.
What's that life like, man? You got, you know, Tracy's in office, you know, Carmen's in the room, right? Victoria's at school. What's life like working from home, man?
I'm jealous, man. I'm jealous.
It's beautiful. Oh my God. Especially because of my previous job. I mean, yeah, I was like a purchasing manager. That was before I got into the cloud. Like I was a purchasing manager for the American branch here in the States. And I was always meeting up with different suppliers. I was writing up orders, contracts, whatever. And like I just got burnt out from it. So then my friend went and told me about cloud computing. And instead of playing video games or going out and hanging out with my friends after work, I just pretty much stayed up forever. Like I think it was like until like 11. So I would go into work at 7 and then I'd work until 7 a lot of times, just because they're the type of people that want you to work longer because it was a German company. And then after that, instead of just relaxing, I would just go straight away to studying. And then I got my first certification. And then my best friend went and put me pretty much through the gauntlet, the one who got me into the cloud stuff, and just getting me to do all these labs so I could learn how to do all sorts of different things. And then after that, I ended up getting a job with one of the big 4 consulting companies, which I had no idea was a big deal until after the fact, because I didn't know. And but
what I do know, man, is you were putting in the work, man. And two things, right? One, you had a buddy in your circle, right, that wanted you to be better. And then 2, there's some personal ownership that went behind it, man. You put in those long hours too. So
yeah,
hats off to you, man.
Yeah. So now it's very much a lot more relaxed. Like a lot of times I'm only really working. I'm not working as hard as I was previously, and I'm nowhere near as stressed as I was before. And you can't beat, like, especially because I live in like suburbs of Atlanta. I don't have to deal with the rat race in the mornings of sitting in your car for hours at a time. Like I see some of you guys like rolling your eyes at that, because I'm just so glad I don't have to do that. I can just stay at home. Of course, I still go out, hang out with my friends during the week, or heck, in next weekend, me and a couple of my friends are going to Miami. But it's just nice to be able to have that relaxing kind of thing versus before I was just stressed.
Living in the suburbs of Atlanta, man, all the way from South Georgia. But
Well,
Carmen,
it's not really a super huge distance compared to where I was at before.
No, true that. I'm with it. Carmen, I'll be remiss. You kind of mentioned a little bit, you and your brother were the first ones in your family, right, to go to college. And I think you can kind of connect with some of these students, right? What was that like? What was the significance of that? And then how did like education kind of set you on a path of a different trajectory, maybe than some of your family members?
So like we grew up, you know, my parents was like very, very hard workers. So I feel like my brother and I get that work ethic from them. So I'm just constantly always doing something. I'm trying to be, useful. I don't like being idle. So I like to do a lot of community service. I'm a part of a sorority, so we do a lot of community stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
just that kind of person. I just really want to try to have as big of a positive impact on people's lives that I can while I'm here. I feel like while I'm here, I need to be able to give back and give what was, instilled into me. So us going to college really kind of took that up to a next level. So now, we have that foundation, so we can just keep going up from here, from generation to generation. And I do feel like, college has really opened up a lot. I've learned a lot just about myself, and I try to bring that in when I see my patients, try to put all that like positivity and give all that back, because dealing with cancer patients, a lot of people say it's like very depressing, but it's only depressing if you look at it that way. A lot of people, when they hear cancer, they think it's a death sentence. And, science has just come so far. We as people have come so far now. So I just think that, just going forward, just, taking everything that I've learned and just kind of trying to put it back out there into the atmosphere. But I do think like having a strong support system was honestly what really has gotten me through like just everything, because college was hard. It was hard. The program that I went through, it was very, very rigorous. It was hard, but it makes you, or it can either break you. So again, we started out with a large class, 14. We ended up with like 7 or 8 of us, but it was hard. We've all been through those times where we thought that, we wasn't going to make it, or it's just not looking like I can finish. But honestly, just having a strong support system, like prayer, I pray a lot, I go to church. So all of that just was really has gotten me here today. So I'm just very thankful, and I am glad that I can like, give some insight on that and kind of share with the next generation. But definitely you need a strong support system. You need strong support system, strong friends, again, goals. You definitely have to be disciplined. You want to have a balance. Like when you go to college, it's going to be a lot of temptation, but you definitely have to find a balance. Working and school, but you want to have like a life too outside school. So you definitely need a balance. And but I do think it comes a lot from that strong support.
I love it. That's pretty awesome. I think there's a couple students that are dialed in that definitely appreciate your experience. I know their experience is probably really similar. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep on schedule, right? And I'm gonna allow each panelist to share. You put yourself back in your high school shoes. What's some last advice that you want to give to current high school students that are at Brunswick High, Glenn Academy, Jeff Davis? Just some things, right? We always talk about social media. If I was 16 or back in high school, I wish I would have known this. Well, here's your opportunity. And Jeff, man, I mean, Jack, I see it in your eyes, man. You're itching at the bit. So we're gonna let you go first, man. What's some advice that you give to these high school students as a parting shot before you get off?
Don't think that college is as hard as all these AP and honors classes, because I tell you what, my freshman year of high school, I was failing like a lot of my classes. And just because my parents, they were hard on me, they put me in AP this, honors that, and all that other stuff. And like, I was like, holy crap, if this is just high school, how hard is college going to be? And then honestly, it was my dad who sat me down. It's like, those classes are meant for people that are going to be going to Harvard and those really hard schools. If you just go to a normal school, which is probably where you're going to go to anyways, it will not be that bad. And you know what? It was exactly like that. So just do not get discouraged by those classes. And if you are not in the AP honors classes, if you do well in them, you can still do well and go on, and especially if you do get decent enough grades.
Okay. I love it, man. You heard it first from Jack. Carmen, let's bring it back, man. What's one piece of advice that you give to the ladies and gentlemen dialed in?
Um, the main thing is when things get tough, just don't quit. Even if you don't know how it's gonna work out, it's gonna all work out. If you just do things with a pure heart and a pure intent, it's all gonna come together in the end. It's just, I feel like we just hit those stumbling blocks and we just literally let that get us in that place of like, okay, I can't see a way out of this. I can't keep going. But if you just stay positive and you just really just have some type of goal for yourself and you just work at it, it's honestly, it's going to work out in the end. It doesn't matter if you don't get that job, because a lot of us, it took me 2 years to find a job as a therapist, only because I wanted to stay home. But you keep at it, and then pace yourself too. Allow yourself to kind of fail and kind of bounce back from that. So definitely pace yourself and just allow yourself to grow, and don't compare yourself to other people. That'll probably be the thing. Never compare yourself to anybody. We're all running a race at a different pace. So, just don't get caught up on the bad, focus on the good, and just, at the end, have a vision for yourself, and you just stay on track with that, and it's all gonna work out.
I love it, man. That's so positive, and I think those should be the new lyrics, right, to the new song that's about to drop. We're all running a different race, at a different pace, to a different place. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. But I just wrote in the chat, if any students are dialed in, feel free to add any questions that you have. We'll do a quick Q&A at the end if you got any. If you don't, that's fine too. But Tracy, what do you got, man? One last parting shot. Words of wisdom, please drop us with some gems.
So one thing I would love to tell my younger self is a lot of the times you can't see the next step. A lot of times it just looks like there's just one big wall there. Like starting off, I was like, I don't have any money. How am I going to go to college? How am I going to, keep going? Yes, sometimes you have to take a break. There has been several semesters where I would have to take either a mental break. Sometimes I'd have to take a semester off to work to save up money, but keep going, keep the dedication, and know that it's not going to last forever. It took me 6 years to get a bachelor's degree, but I got one. You just got to keep going. You got to keep sticking with it and know that no matter what happens in life, you'll get through it. Allow yourself to take a break. Don't, like Carmen said, don't feel bad for, it's not a race. Like there's some people who have their parents pay for college, whatever. They finish a lot faster, but just because you don't finish at the same rate they did does not mean that you aren't as equally successful and equally as intelligent as those people are. I wish I would have told myself it's okay to not finish as fast as others and just to keep going, keep the dedication. Because there's been a lot of times classes would get so hard, or I would get sick and I would miss a week of class. I'm like, how am I ever going to catch up? You just have to change your mindset. Just change your mindset and keep going. Keep the faith. Like she said, have a good support system. God, pray. That's God got me through a lot of hard times in my life.
I love it.
Just keep going. Don't give up. You got this.
You know, like that animated movie that I like from Finding Nemo, right? I think it was a Dory or somebody said like just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
There we go. And we live on the coast, so we know all about that, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys saw the chat, right? My dad's a farmer, so I'm a little bit corny. But you guys saw the chat, right? If anybody knows the answer to that question, right? Anybody specifically know any sites that you can apply for scholarships or grants, or what advice that you guys would give for that question from Amanda that's in the chat?
I was already answering it. Like, I know about this one scholarship specifically for my school, but it depends, of course, like what you're wanting to do. But essentially what it does is it gives you a full ride scholarship for North Georgia, and all you gotta do is of course you gotta go into the National Guard. And I know a couple of my friends did it. What it does is it pretty much guarantees you a job right after college, because they're obviously going to keep you employed, and you stay in the National Guard, and you can go and you can still work and have like your normal life, unless of course you get deployed or whatever. But while you're in school, you can't get deployed.
Gotcha. So that's one opportunity, right? That National Guard opportunity that Jack is talking about. And then one of the ladies, y'all want to answer that second question? She asked, like, as you're trying to figure out what you want to do after you just graduate, would you recommend going to a JUCO or a community college before going off to that 4-year university, kind of like what Carmen did?
Yes, I would recommend that too. I would recommend going to a community college, kind of get your feet wet, really determine if this is what you want to do or if this is what I want to do right now. Like, sometimes school can get overwhelming for some people and they may need a break, and you don't want to burn out early, So I definitely would look into going to a community college, because one thing I think I didn't know until the last minute, that you can literally do all of your core classes at a community college, save a little bit of money. All of those can transfer, get with a good guidance counselor you know, in your major. And she really sat down with me and let me know, hey, you can stay here and, you know, finish out your core classes and then everything will transfer over. And that's exactly what I did. And I thank God that I accidentally stayed home because I saved so much money. So I definitely would recommend doing that first.
Victoria, you're shaking your head. You got any insight on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to community college first, but I've had several friends who went to Coastal, and then my brother went to Coastal, and our tuition for our first year was completely different. I mean, I think mine a semester was 8,000 semester wise. And just to ask, going back to our conversation before we went in, when you're a first year college person, you don't know the ins and outs. You don't know about FAFSA. You don't know where to get scholarships. You don't know where to even begin. And so my first year in college, we messed up on my FAFSA. So my parents had to bust their behinds to pay for my first year. And so that was like maybe 20,000 they had to out of pocket, and God knows that they worked so hard to do that, and I'm thankful for it. And I think that was one of the main reasons why I pushed myself, because I wanted to quit so many times. I mean, I barely slept in college. It was so stressful. But if I would have not been pressured, not by like my family, but I felt like a stigma in Brunswick is to immediately leave because Brunswick doesn't have a good enough college, or it's not good enough here. I would have saved a lot of money, and still transferred to a good program like Georgia Southern and end up not having to pay back so much right now.
You guys heard it first, right?
Yeah.
I also want to add really quick that if you start out at Brunswick High, I ended up getting Hope and Pell at Coastal, and I didn't have to pay anything. So if you definitely keep your grades up before, literally when I went to Coastal, I got a refund. I didn't have to pay for anything. Everything was free, and I didn't stay on campus. So definitely, you know, work hard while you're in high school because that pays off. At least try to keep like a 3.0. I don't know if it's a 3.5 now for Hope, but you know, keep at least like a 3.0, and that'll help you out a lot too.
Tracy, what you got?
Yeah, one thing I want to mention about a 2-year or a community college is that at a big university, starting off, I mean, you're just a number. Like basically, you're just another number to those professors. They're trying to weed you out. At a community college, they have more time to spend with you one-on-one, and you're more of an individual there than you are at a university. So yeah, I would definitely recommend getting your core done if you can at a community college, not only for the financial savings, but for, you know, just the one-on-one time that you possibly could get with your professor and other students. I mean, it's better to start off small and go big, in my opinion.
Although it's not like that at all colleges though. Like at my college, a lot of time it was maybe 20 something kids in the classroom. Of course, you had certain classes that were in auditoriums, but those were the classes that you didn't really necessarily need to pay attention, like theater art appreciation, for example, or the easy classes would be in those auditoriums. So it depends on which college you go to.
Wide perspective, right? And I'm glad we got a panelist so you guys can see whether it's Carmen, Tracy, or Jack. But Victoria, as we round it out, like what's one last piece of advice that you give to these students back in Glenn County?
I would say probably take more opportunities. If I just reflect back on my younger self, I tried to stay within my comfort zone a lot, and I think I missed out on a lot of connections I could have made that could possibly help me out in my career right now, and just overall, just knowing people and creating connections. And that goes for just at any point in your life. If there's an opportunity that arises, whether you think you're good at it or not, or it doesn't impact you, I think it's always best to try different things, because it also like helps create interest. Like if I didn't reach out to Miss Greiner, if I didn't take the chance to go into an education class, then I wouldn't be who I am now. And I would probably be, you know, wondering what my next step would be. So definitely if there's opportunities that arise or don't, just go search for them and then find them from there.
Yeah, about to say,
love
I
it.
really agree with Victoria though, because like a lot of people, they are afraid to get out of their comfort zone. That is Brunswick, Georgia, because like Shaq went and said, he says that the stigma is to get out of Brunswick. I say the stigma is the opposite. A lot of people tend to stay and live and die in Brunswick and don't really get to see too much more of what else the world has to offer.
But there's nothing wrong with staying in your hometown.
Yeah. I'm
And
not bashing
and
on it, but
yeah, and it's good to give back to your community. You know what I mean? Like if you ever make it big, just give back, help others succeed too.
Yeah, and that's what we're all on the panelists for, right? We're all one big community, right? We're still a community where you're in North Georgia, Germany, Savannah, or I'm out down here in Columbia, right? Like I'm on this hook because we're one big family back home in South Georgia. So wherever you're at, you know, it takes one body for the body to be successful, and that's where I'm right here. Your location really doesn't matter, but as long as we're doing stuff like this, and you know, we still represent, that's what it's all about. So I'm gonna keep us on schedule. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate everybody dialing in. We actually got a surprise for week 5, but I'll release that on social media pretty soon. And I'm going to end the live stream and I'll talk to the panelists next. So here we go, ending the live stream.